Okay, how we doing out there, everybody? Let me know. Do I sound good? Am I glitching or anything like that? Let me know. I see the greens. Spam green in the chat too while you're at it. There you go. I love it. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Happy Father's Day as well to all dads out there. And it's crazy that I can now be wished Happy Father's Day. And of course, pancakes. Let's go. And I want to thank really quick Stephen Gibson before the stream, leaving a 2 here, saying happy first Father's Day, change all the shit diapers. Yeah, there's been a lot. Tell you what, for anyone who's been a dad out there, that first blowout, that it actually starts to stink. Whew, boy. That's ripe in the nose. It'll clear your sinuses right out. But y'all don't care about that. We have plenty of time. We can tell funny stories like that in the future. What y'all are caring about is NASCAR in Mexico, both tonight or today, hopefully not tonight, as long as weather permits, as well as yesterday. We'll talk a little bit about yesterday. We'll talk about today as well. And I'll tell you what, man. I'm really looking forward to this race. I gotta say, I didn't know for sure if I was going to or not, just because I have no real connection to Mexico. Like the most connection I have to Mexico is a few friends that moved up to America from Mexico, and family took vacations there, right? So, but the excitement that there was yesterday with the Suarez win, the excitement with a lot of the drivers and the fans, like I've kind of like bought in. I like it. I want to see this in Canada next. That's pretty good. But let's talk about a bit with the Cup race. Let's just dive into the Cup race, talk bit by bit with that as well. And then first off, let's go through the starting lineup for today's race. In row 1 is Shane Van Gisbergen in his number 88 Trackhouse Chevrolet, next to Ryan Preece, who I don't know if y'all saw, but it was just announced, I want to say about maybe 10, 15 minutes ago, that Colgate with Ryan Preece is going to be running 6 commercials today during the Prime broadcast when it comes to their new Smile First campaign and different stuff like that. So good to see Preece, one, have a sponsor that's willing to integrate them in, but good to see those driver integrations really start up. I wonder how many points he got on their promotion scale. I wonder how many points coming on like NWP would be for them, or if they get a negative one for that. Eyebolt here real quick with the 5 says if SVG or Daniel Suarez wins today, 4 of the last 5 NASCAR sanctioned races will have been won by a non-American born driver, if my math is correct. Last 4 of the 5 NASCAR sanctioned races. Are we talking just like total in general? Because I have not kept track. The Reverend Sheem Hall Stewart here also saying, who do you prefer, SVG, Zilich, or Allmendinger? For the short term right now, Allmendinger for overall, because I think he's an overall better NASCAR driver than both those two in Cup right now. For the road courses and the high-end potential, Shane Van Gisbergen. He's gotten better at ovals, but not really that great. But we know the threat he will be today and at road courses. And for long-term, Connor Zilich. I know that's kind of a cop-out, so I guess right now I'd go with AJ. But long-term, I'd go with Zilich. And then if I needed to have just like a mercenary come in for a win, it would totally be SVG. But let's go through again. Starting lineup. Row 1, SVG and Ryan Preece. Row 2, another Trackhouse car here. Ross Chastain and Ty Gibbs. After that, we got Michael McDowell and Kyle Larson on row 3. Row 4 is Todd Gilliland and AJ Allmendinger. And then the top 10 has all the Trackhouse guys, Joey Logano and Daniel Suarez in row 5. Row 6, Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott. 8 and 9 start 11 and 12. Row 7 is Josh Berry and Eric Jones. Another solid start to the weekend for Eric Jones, who's shown some life as of late. Row 8, Riley Herbst and Chris Buescher. Row 9, Justin Haley, who's been in the news waves for all the wrong reasons when it comes to his performance so far this season, and Ryan Blaney, who he'll be a threat next week. I don't think he'll be a threat this week. Row 10, Chase Briscoe and Austin Cindric. Maybe Cindric can not right rear hook somebody in a road course race this week. Austin Dillon and Tyler Reddick, former teammates, make up row 11. Then Carson Hocevar and Zane Smith, former Truck Series rivals, in row 12. Row 13, Bubba Wallace, who, if you saw his Instagram, has really been taking well to the Mexican culture, next to Cole Custer in the Haas factory machine. In row 14, William Byron and Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon, maybe you'll get that first top 10 of the year. And then the struggle bus row is row 15, Alex Bowman and Brad Keselowski in this row, both of which are either really, really buried in the points like BK or completely in free fall, Tom Petty style with Alex Bowman. Then you got in row number 16, Christopher Bell. Going to have to come a long way if he is to compete, though. Again, the winner yesterday, Daniel Suarez, started last, and John Hunter Nemechek. Ricky Stenhouse and Cody Ware make up the 17th row, and then the 18th row goes to Noah Gragson and Ryan Truex. Catherine Legg starts shotgun on the field. I will put the starting grid on the bottom there. If I missed your driver or if I spelled your driver's name wrong, let me know. But I think today is going to be one of those very interesting days because I don't think all of the guys who started up front are going to finish there by any means. They're good. I get all of them have their upside with road course racing, but at the same time, there's some pretty strong competition in the back, especially Christopher Bell, who I believe had the fastest 10-lap average yesterday when they were practicing. So just saying, COTA 2021, will that happen? I don't think so. Are we talking 21 or 23? I should say 20. The crazy one, I don't think will happen. 2021. If we're talking about the crazy finish, that could happen, or very well could happen. There's a lot of them that are up there, but I mean, Byron, 27th right there, really good at road courses. Alex Bowman, say what you want about him, pretty good at road courses, 29th start. Bell in 31st. I mean, there's going to be a lot of guys flying up through the field. 2021 with all the rain. That's right. I don't think it'll be that bad. We sit first. But that's a good segue. That's a good segue into the weather side of things. Looking at the weather, and I have the hourly weather forecast updating on my end from the Weather Channel as well as National Weather Service. And I'm looking right now. Wow, did it just update? Okay, it just updated. It's looking around 5 o'clock local time, closer to 4:30 local time. Showers and scattered thunderstorms could be a factor. So to keep it in perspective, it is Central Time. It is the Central Time zone for Mexico City. So they will be starting at 2:23 local time. 3:23 is the estimated green flag time, Eastern time. So it gives them roughly 2 to 2.5 hours, which I think is, as long as we don't have like red flags or some craziness, should get a good amount in. It's now whether or not there's rain before that. So they do have 5 sets of wet tires that they can race in this. So that is something that is really big to look at there. I really think the first half of this race will get in no problem dry, as long as like there isn't a cloud burst or something. But I do think the weather is going to play a big factor today in the strategies of this race. Because do I think they're going to make it to the end and this is going to be a completely clean, high and dry race? No. I think we're going to have some rain in this thing. I really, really do. Unfortunately, and it sucks because every damn time we have something cool in this sport, like Twin Spinner said, NASCAR doing cool shit, rain comes in. I am so sick of it raining every time there is some new thing that NASCAR tries, or we're having an awesome race or something like that. I'm just thinking of the last couple years in general, right? You had the Chicago races. As much as I'm, very biased on the Chicagoland side of things, like it's a really cool thing for the sport, really big moments, and it got completely washed out both years. Hopefully third time, last time's the charm. Atlanta. Remember that summer race a couple years ago? That was kick ass. It was like one of the best starts in middle to a race at the new Atlanta we've had. And it looked like it was shaping up for a great race. Rained out, Hell, I mean, a couple races I've been to the last couple years, like Nashville, for instance, bunch of rain. So it sucks. But the positive thing is that on road courses and flatter, shorter ovals, now we can race in the wet. NASCAR does not like racing in the rain unless it's like kind of sprinkling and not really too heavy. We kind of saw that become the problem at COTA, and that's why I don't think we will see that COTA issue. I will say this. I was there in 2021 at Circuit of the Americas. That was one of the most fun races I have ever experienced in person. I was soaked. I was sunburnt from beforehand and all of that, but it was a ton of fun. I'm looking at the chat here, and Zuck here says, Carson Osevar soft launch Chicagoland is returning on his stream yesterday. I did see that. I mentioned it yesterday as well on the stream. And I would like to act surprised. I will say this. None of my sources around Chicagoland have confirmed it. Though a lot of them I also think would not want to do so they don't get in trouble in case, I say something stupid, which I've been prone to do. I will say this though. The city of Chicago wants NASCAR out. I think they're really pushing for Formula One, especially since Formula One bought the rights to the Chicago Grand Prix name. Hey, I'll just say this. If they get Formula One, I really think they're losing out because NASCAR is actually open to local areas and change, whereas Formula One basically is just like they move into your city and become a leech. But hey, that's just me, man. But yeah, Chicagoland, I will say this. I have seen the track a bit. I have gotten pictures, video, seen it, all of that. I know there's been renovations done to certain parts of it. I know it's been well taken care of. I know actually the way that Chicagoland has been taken care of since 2019, in part, has also set the groundwork for the protocol of how other tracks are taken care of in the ISC platform. So I know a little bit about Chicagoland. I'll do some more poking on that. But I would say that for the first time in a long time, it is highly likely that we're going to be having racing in Joliet next year. Not just because it's been likely in the past and stuff, but I think it'll be highly likely this time. Let's see what else we got. And I don't know when it's going to be on the schedule. It could be during the playoffs. It could be during the NBC portion beforehand. It could be during TNT. It could be during the prime side of things. It could even be during I guess the later end of the Fox side of things. Maybe if they like switch out the Kansas race for a different part of the year. I don't know. I don't know when the date would be. Going back to the race itself, though, because I think this is important to look at with the weather side of things, because I think the weather is going to play the big factor in a lot of this. Because I think, Shane Van Gisbergen, he should be running up front. I don't see why he isn't the favorite. Christopher Bell starting in the back, William Byron starting in the back. They're going to be Reddick starting mid-pack in 22nd. They're going to be big factors too, but they're going to have to come up through the field. They might have to do some strategy plays. The interesting part is the stage breakdown here, because the way NASCAR protocol is that if rain's in the area or storms in the area and the race has to be called, what happens is they go off of either the end of stage 2 or the halfway point, whichever comes first. Of course, is the 100-lap race. Halfway is 50 laps in. But the stage breakdown is 20, 25, 55, which means the end of the second stage is lap 45. If they make it to lap 45, race is official. It ends today. Other thing is, track doesn't have lights. So we also have a similar, it's very similar to what we had last year with Chicago, where if the race is not to conclude before the sun goes down, then we're looking at once they hit a certain time. I don't know if they published that time yet, but once they hit a certain time, from there, they end up finishing the next lap, which is what they did at Chicago last year. and what they've, I think, done at New Hampshire before. We could be looking at time ending this race, unfortunately, if the weather does not permit it to end when it should. I really think we're going to get a good amount of this race done cleanly in dry conditions, as long as there's not a red flag. That's a big thing. Now, I'm not a meteorologist. I could totally get this wrong. There again, the green flag estimate is 3:23 Eastern time, 2:23 Central time, which is the local time of Mexico City. Now, looking also, I want to look at this end because I don't have it off of memory, but the sunset in Mexico City. When's the sun go down? 7:16 p.m. local time, which roughly gives us a 5-hour window to complete the race. I think the race gets completed. I'm gonna put that prediction, write it down, put it, screen record this and play it to me later if I get it wrong. I think the race ends under the scheduled distance. I actually think we have time for overtime finishes and stuff like that if it's needed. But it's going to be an important factor to look at. I guarantee all the crews are going to look at it. And it's what's looking like is it's going to start with just pop-up showers. They're just going to pop up at different areas. It might be fine. And then all of a sudden, here's a shower that's 5 miles from the track and goes right over it. Which has got to be maddening for the teams and the crew chiefs. But hey, man, it's the time of year we got for it. I've seen this question asked, so I'm just going to address this now and not actually say it, but I'm going to say none of y'all's business. I appreciate the interest, but I don't talk pay online. That's I think it's rude. Let's talk about some of the other storylines too. Daniel Suarez getting the win yesterday. And I guess we can put the official results. Let me know if we got let me know if we got the what do you call it? If there was a DQ I missed. I will admit that when I get off of being live, I tend to just check out. Been pretty busy, got the kiddo. You don't make enough, we understand. Y'all are funny. I gotta say, the chat is really damn funny. Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry, I completely forgot, Sean. I completely forgot. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 6, 6, 8, 7, 5, 3. I can't even finish it. I'm sorry. Let's talk about the Xfinity race here. You got the finishing order on the bottom there. I thought the Xfinity race was a lot of fun yesterday. I stand with the number grade that I give it of an 8 out of 10. I think that yeah, it was a little sloppy at times, but that's road course racing in NASCAR. There was the ability to pass throughout the race. Plenty of people going, up and down through the pack at certain points. The attrition rate is the interesting part that I think is the most major factor that you can bring from yesterday to today. Because of the elevation change, because of the difference in the way that the output is for the engines, I do think attrition is going to be a very interesting piece of this race. I would even say we'll have maybe as many, if not more, probably mechanical issues at certain points and engine issues, just because, I think the Cup cars are a little, I don't know if cheaper is the right word, but they seem more prone to issues than Xfinity cars do. So I think that's the biggest one-to-one we can look at from yesterday to today. But Daniel Suarez getting the win, that is huge. It might not be huge for the American audience, but for the Mexican audience, and especially those that are there, it was major. Unfortunately, CW didn't get the audio correct in it. Didn't show that crowd noise. They showed the crowd, which I appreciated. But the crowd noise was lacking. That's for sure. But I mean, I think that yes, he's a leech. He's a ringer. He's whatever you want. But I also think that somebody winning at their home track, and especially when it's an international race like this, such a big deal for NASCAR, especially to kind of get that brand out there more and more palatable to people outside of America. I think that's the best case scenario they could have had. Do I think he doubles it up today? No. No, I don't think so. I think that the field and the competition is way too difficult today. I think he might get a top 5. I think he's determined, and that determination will get you a long way. But there's so many really great drivers out there on road courses now. I mean, about 5 years ago, we were calling Chase Elliott the king of road courses, and now he's still good, but he's a non-factor at most road course races. Tyler Reddick, we were calling him that in the early part of the next gen era. He's still really good and elite, but it's not like he's just, top of the board every single time. Shane Van Gisbergen's in the field. AJ Allmendinger's in the field. Ross Chastain's been really good. I mean, his team alone at Trackhouse, he is arguably the 3rd best road course racer, and all 3 of them are top 10 road course racers, I think, in the NASCAR Cup Series. I mean, even some of the regulars out there are top of the line, really good. We talked about William Byron, and Alex Bowman is under the radar. My pick, Christopher Bell, long way to go, but I think he'd get the win. Ty Gibbs, when he's not having stupid stuff happen to him, pretty damn good. Michael McDowell, for instance. I mean, all the Spire guys last year got top 5s and top 10s at road courses. So I think that the field is as competitive and as talented at road courses as it's ever been. You go back to, the glory days, as a lot of people like to say, the early 2000s, and you watch those guys race, and you pretty much had 3 actual contenders in those races unless they messed up. And it was like Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, Robbie Gordon, and maybe Boris Said would jump up there every now and then, and so on and so forth. They didn't win every race, but they won the vast majority of them because they were the only ones that were actually really good at it and put the effort forth into it. The rest of the drivers basically were like, if we make it, we make it. Let's just go through without getting a DNF. Now everybody is, I would argue that every driver on the road courses today could go head to head with Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, and Robbie Gordon back then because they race them so much. Just because they're not as good at road courses now compared to the rest of the field does not mean that they would not be as good compared to those guys back in the day. Boris said what? Boris said he was a set head. There, of course, there's bad luck. AJ Allmendinger's had some bad luck. We saw, what was his name? Zilich had bad luck when he was coming up through the field at COTA. Like, I'm not saying all these guys are electric, knock it out of the park, but there's plenty of really good guys out there. Kyle Busch was running for the win at the last road course race we had. You can't count Rowdy out at the road courses. Why? Because it's one of the most talent-based forms. Now, granted, strategy also shuffles that up, but when you look at it, you're just getting a straight-ass battle for the win. I would say that these Kyle Busch is one of the best ones out there. But hey, there's going to be plenty of intrigue, I think, today. Or it's going to be just Shane Van Gisbergen locking out the field. But I don't know. He seemed very human at COTA earlier this year. Looking at some of the other things, kind of quick things to kind of look over. There's a new Ram commercial that was out. I think Dana White was doing the commentary on it, but they're featuring the new 2026 Ram truck that'll be in NASCAR. I think it'll be on the broadcast today. I think it's been on like baseball broadcasts and stuff like that too. I've saw some people tag me about it. So there's Ram is really picking up the advertising for America. For sure. I know they've been really pushing it with like the Super Bowl and everything like that, but they're really pushing that, and they're pushing NASCAR as that kind of American brand, which I really like. Todd Gilliland, underdog today. I'd say underdog, but I think he could very much be somebody that's a top 10 driver through the day. That's the thing. I think there's 20 to 25 guys out there that could easily get a top 10 today. And the rest of them, maybe say outside of 2 or 3 at the back of the pack, very back, and like the crappy cars, could totally compete to be in that top 10, 15 range. it is such a competitive road course field now compared to the way it used to be. What team should be Ram? I don't know. I don't know at this point, because a lot of people talked about GMS. They have come out and said they're not coming back, but at the same time, like, why would they announce that they are if it's not the right time? A lot of people talk about Thor Sport. I have heard it's not Thor Sport. I'm not sure who it is at this point. All I'm sure of is I think we're going to probably get some full car fields soon, or full truck fields in most races and trucks. Let's see. What about Chase today? Thoughts? Briscoe or Elliott? I know what you mean. Chase Elliott. I think Chase Elliott could run up front. Like I said, he's not the elite guy that he used to be, where it's like you go to a road course, it's Chase's race to lose. But at the same time, he's been somebody that's kind of that low end top 5, top 10 guy, shows speed, comes out most races and is really good at the end of them, which has been really against what Chase Elliott has done so far this year. So I see no reason to think why he can't jump up. Which Chase? Yes. Let's see. Hi, Iceberg. I'm a Joey Logano fan. Good for you. It's been a pretty successful tenure. I'll say that. I would definitely say that. If you're crew chief, let's see. Wrong one. God damn, man. This chat moves on me on my end really glitchily. So if you're crew chief, how do you call the stages? Ooh, it depends on so much. One, it depends on the weather, obviously, we talked about, but two, it depends on where you're at. If you're the leader, I say you short the stages. You pit with 3 to go in the stage or come into 2 to go. If you're the leader or with the leaders. If you're running for the win in that moment, screw the stage points. Go out there, pit right before the caution each time, and then go for broke in the final stage. See what the fuel allots you with it. If you're kind of middle of the pack, I think it's very much, it depends. Because if you're in that high end middle of the pack, like that 7th to like 16th, 18th range, you can go over the stage points too, especially if you're on that cut line, that bubble line, you need it. You're probably not going to get the stage point, or you're probably not going to get the full points as it goes. If you're in the back of the pack, you might as well cut the stages if nobody else is. Do whatever the opposite everyone else does on the stages. So if in stage 1 they all pit early, you stay out. If they all stay out in stage 2, you pit. That's the way I'd call them. But thing is, I'm not a crew chief. They don't pay me the big bucks for this, and there's a good reason why. Good enough at math, but I think I'm decent with strategy, but I could very much be wrong. Let's see. American Auto Freak, you're very interested in how I run my business. You're very interested, and I appreciate the interest. I'll just say that. That's as far as I'm going to go on most of these questions, buddy. Let's see. Who do you think is most likely to cause a huge wreck into turn 1? I apologize to our fan earlier that commented. Joey Logano. Joey Logano probably would, because Joey has shown his ability to do that before, multiple times, mostly Indianapolis and Coda, but still. I think Logano is one of the best drivers of this generation. As much as you might hate him, he's a very talented race car driver. But he is very prone to dumbass attacks. Ty Gibbs could too. I could totally see Ty Gibbs. Joey Logan. Joey Logano sends it 7 wide into turn 1. A classic Logano move, if I've ever seen it. Joe, there. Hey, you know what? We even got a Joey fan here with Brantley saying Joey is really good at wrecking into turn 1. Hey, you know what? I give you credit, man. I give you credit. Impartial. You're very impartial. Going out of the limb, Ross Chastain. There you go, Eyebolt. I meant that one. Totally could see that. I'm not going to give Catherine hey, I really don't think she's going to cause a big one. It's mostly the car she's in. Also, I don't think she's as bad of a driver as her tenure has shown so far, unfortunately. She's had a lot of mistakes, a lot of stuff pinned on her that might not be totally on her, but it's been a bad tenure. There's no way around it. She's been pretty awful so far in NASCAR this year. And I feel I'm trying to say this in the most least assholey way I could, but if you're going to cause a big wreck, you got to be ahead of a lot of cars too. And I think even if her throttle stuck, she would not be ahead of a lot of cars in the 78. I love BJ McLeod. I love that group, but I don't see that car getting up through the pack. That car is only good at super speedways, and even then it breaks. Love those guys. Great people. Been on their car before. But you got to call a spade and how it is. Let's see. Do you think it's time for change with the 48 team? Like maybe a new crew chief like Rodney Childers? Thoughts? Thing is, I've been very high on Blake Harris, but the thing is Bowman's had so many injuries the last couple of years. I think it's so difficult to judge where he is as a driver. Because I think Alex Bowman is supremely underrated in the NASCAR Cup Series. Is he a championship guy? No, and that is the standard. The standard is the standard there, to quote the Pittsburgh Steelers. But that's how Hendrick Motorsports is. The standard there is championships. And I'm sorry, I don't care what the system is. I can never see Alex Bowman ever being a champion in the Cup Series. I would love him to prove me wrong because he's one of my favorite guys to talk to in the garage. I think he's one of the most interesting personalities that does not get the proper coverage for it. But I've seen Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson win championships. I think they could win under any system. William Byron probably should have been the champion, a year or so ago, whatever it was. 23, I think for sure. I can't see it with Bowman. So that's the other part is the driver factor. But the thing is that race at Michigan was jarring. Yeah, he had that massive crash, and I really hope he's all right. It sounds like he's been in a lot of pain. Not bad enough. But at the same time, like he has a relief driver, I believe, just in case. But the problem is that not the wreck itself. Bowman could not have done a thing about the wreck. The problem is that 48 car on speed was being outrun by Cody Ware for a majority of a race at freaking Michigan, where horsepower is major. Yeah, strategy is very big. You want to get the handling right, but horsepower, speed, Lightning McQueen, I am speed. That is a Hendrick staple. And the 48 team was out to lunch for the first part of that race for wrecking out. That to me is jarring. And that's on the crew chief. That's on the guy setting everything up. I think if the 48 team continues to spiral, not just wreck, but just run slow. Yeah, I think a change is needed. Is it Rodney Childers? I don't know. Because I think Rodney Childers is past his prime. I think this car is not in his wheelhouse. I don't even know if he'd be the right fit for somebody like Alex Bowman. Now he could be pretty good. Again, he'd be way better than me. But there is that. Let's see. I've never seen Jarrett starting his stream earlier. When is the earliest I've ever started a stream? Might have been this. I don't know. I like doing so I'll say this. Because I think a lot of people are surprised I started the stream early. We are still doing the post-race stream, obviously. So here's the thing. On bigger races, or at least races that are new or have some kind of intrigue I'd like to talk about, like Mexico, big races. Like I was going to do it for the 600 before Indy got pushed way back. Talladega, Daytona 500. I'll do it later this year for the Southern 500, Brickyard. Chicago probably will be the next one. Daytona, and then some of the playoff races, especially the ones on big NBC. But for the bigger races, I'd like to do this more. I'm always kind of wondering, like, if you guys would want me to expand on that into the future. I would like to, I like doing these pre-race streams on these bigger days. That, and I also can shamelessly promote my next stream. But hey, you know what? If If you guys want me to do more, let me know. It's cool. We are sitting here and it was 11:15 local time. There's 400 people chilling on a Sunday morning. Like Daytona, I think there was like over 700 of y'all chilling with me at like 10:30 in the morning local time. A lot of fun, man. Let's see what else. I saw some more super chats come through. James here says, Happy Father's Day, Jared. Thank you. Thank you. And happy Father's Day to all dads out there. I don't want to judge a kid in the background either. If so, happy Father's Day to you as well. Beast Metal, I love seeing you in here. I love that profile picture. Saying the problem with stealing Tomlin quotes is that the Steelers' real standard these days are high-end mediocrity, but this isn't said out loud by them. Oh no, the Steelers are the Steelers are the definition of mediocre. The Steelers are what people now. The Steelers are the AFC version of what people think the Minnesota Vikings are now, because at least the Vikings can get double-digit wins most years. They just suck when it matters. Whereas the Steelers just are meh. And escape by on easy schedules and stuff. But I think that quote more or less does fit where the Steelers should be and where Hendrick Motorsports should be. Steelers have been this way for 8+ years. It is true. Yeah. You're owned by the Ravens, and I would probably say probably the Bengals most years, except now their defense sucks. But this is not football time. I apologize for inserting football into NASCAR talk. Yesterday I did also tease something, and I'm going to still tease it for the post-race stream today. So be sure to tune in after the race. I'll probably have it towards the end of the stream. There's a piece of memorabilia I found of mine that's a few autographs that I didn't realize I had. Either I didn't recognize them when I had gotten this, or I had gotten it and completely forgot that I got it, which is something that totally could happen. And I think you guys will find it really interesting. It's not going to be like I found like the holy grail of things. Like I didn't find, like a handwritten letter from Ralph Earnhardt or anything. But I found some very old autographs on a shirt of mine, and I'm surprised that they're there. Honestly, I'll put it like this. Somebody asked yesterday. The first guess was, "Is it Dick Trickle?" And I said this long predates Dick Trickle, which I think should get a lot of people's intrigue up if you're a NASCAR history buff. I saw some of the guesses of people from that era, but nobody guessed who it actually was, or there's multiple people, so who they were actually. So I'm not going to say who it is though. 11 all the way. Will you ever stream on Twitch? Probably not, because I really don't like Twitch as a platform. I think it's a broken platform personally. I think YouTube has its issues, but Twitch a lot of times just, I feel like Twitch is very difficult for outsiders to get into. Not just streamers, but like viewers. I see no benefit of me going on Twitch. I feel like I would be much better served multi-streaming both on YouTube and then like having like a stream on, X or Kick or one of those other ones. And even then I don't see the benefit, because my main brand is on YouTube, and I just don't see the benefit of doing too much outside of YouTube just yet. And if I were to do it on any of those other platforms, it would just to serve this one. Plus, again, I just don't like Twitch. Hot take: Bowman retires early due to being injury prone if performance doesn't improve. I hope not. I don't want to speculate on injury that much, but it is kind of jarring, because I think it's also bad luck too with Bowman. It is kind of jarring just how many injuries he's had, and how many times he's been not just injured, but also dinged up. I feel for him, because I really do think that Bowman has full potential, can compete with just about anybody. I really do think that. I've seen him go head to head with some of the best in the sport and win. I've seen him compete up front and put together, like the end of 2020, he put together, and Grant, the playoffs don't show it. If it was the Chase era, it'd much better show it. He put together a championship worthy 10 race stretch, in my opinion, of consistency. He can be very consistent. He can pop off and get 4 wins in the season, which again was one of the best predictions I ever made. I'm totally going to toot my own horn on that forever. But it's just, he never can string it all together, man. He never can. NASCAR to Canada in 2026, based on what I've heard, no, but it's not completely off the table. I believe the international dates is what's holding up, or the potential of an international date being added in Canada, I think is partially what holds up the schedule. But I think because of the way Formula One moves stuff around with Canada, and where NASCAR wants to schedule versus where the local governments want the schedule, I think that's the big holdup on getting them there. From what I heard, 27 is much more realistic. But yeah, yes, 2027. Let's see. NASCAR to Great Britain. Hey, man. I mean, I'd much rather them go to Great Britain than go to Saudi Arabia, like they're talking about doing. I'd rather go to Great Britain than take blood money and sports washing. But hey, what do I know? I'm only the paying customer. Brazil, that one will not happen next year, from what I know, at least what people have told me. I think that's another 2027. I think so. I'm going to say this. I made a video about it. I know a lot of people were kind of annoyed by me talking about what I thought of the schedule for next year. I think next year is going to be, for the most part, very status quo. Maybe we get North Wilkesboro as a point state. I just don't see what date swaps out with the SMI side of things, or even if ISC budges. Maybe any of that. I think Chicagoland is the only one I can see as a change. Chicagoland in for the Chicago Street Course running its course in its contract. 2027 to me, that is going to be the very big one. I think that is definitely going to be there's going to be some big swings. I think there'll be a lot more international racing as well. RIP SRX, yes. Let's see. Same thing with China. Yes, very true. Same thing with China. I don't want them racing there either. I know America has its issues, but it is an American series and it started here after all. So I think they can address those issues more if they want, rather than those other ones. But I'm not going to get too far into that side of things either. Ditch Iowa for North Wilkes. I love the Shrek profile picture. I think it's funny. Is that just Shrek on the Hulk's body? Or is that just like a really muscular dude that probably got a compliment out of me calling him the Hulk? I don't think so. Iowa, I think, is a really good track and a really solid base of fans. Maybe this is because I lived there in the Midwest, and not in Iowa, but in the Midwest. And I was in Iowa, in Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, a lot of times, or at least a lot more than a lot of people that don't live around the Midwest are. The Midwest is a very underrated hotbed of racing fans. You just have to know how to reach them. They don't show out maybe as much as like the fans in the Southeast or like the West Coast ones on the West Coast swing at times. But just like the Northeast has a very, very die-hard group of racing fans, and we've seen that at New Hampshire a lot of times and tracks around there. The Midwest does too. You saw it with Road America. Those are just mostly all fans for a track, but that vibe is amazing. I hope Road America comes back at least to Xfinity, because I love Road America. You've seen it with how diehard Indianapolis Motor Speedway fans are. The problem is that the more that NASCAR and the more in general, and I get Formula One's kind of risen up a little bit, and I think IndyCar, I know a lot of people that are in the IndyCar scene won't like me saying this, but I think IndyCar has gotten an artificial inflation of their viewership because, of course, it's on Fox instead of a lot of USA and Peacock races. But in general, when you look at racing in the last 5 or so years, viewership wise, total viewership of racing has went down. The cultural impact of racing is still decreasing right now. And I think you're starting to see that much more in places like the Midwest. You're starting to see that in places like the Southeast a little bit more. So the issue with NASCAR with that is that there's those diehards there, and there's people that are very palatable to racing in the area, but you got to get them back now. And it can't be stupid gimmicks. It can be fun things like Chicago Street Race. A lot of new people jumped in on that, but there were a lot of people who were outside of NASCAR who were like, that stopped watching, and they're like, whoa, man, this is really cool. This reminds me of like the NASCAR I used to watch and I like. You have to do things like outside of the box and things like that, I think, to get a lot of those fans in. There's a lot more of them than you think. The problem too is the racetracks are getting destroyed. I have 2 pieces, the Rockford Speedway, sitting right in here in my office. My actual home track, Chicagoland's my home track for NASCAR. My home track that I lived a mile away from for the better part of my life growing up is now nothing but rubble. And that story is so prevalent all over the Midwest, especially. I know it's the same thing in the Carolinas and Tennessee and the Virginias, in Georgia and all those areas too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not downvoting or not downplaying that. But the Midwest especially has torn down so many good racetracks over the years. And so it's hard for people to really latch on to. So I'll say this long-winded way of saying when Chicagoland comes back too, because I'm going to bring it back to that, show up. I know I'll be there. I might be there like Wednesday through Monday, honestly, that week. I'll make it work. Like, I know that like the rest of like my family and friends and everyone who's talked about going in that group, because there's a lot of people that I've talked to about it. I've talked about going through the weekend and maybe like Thursday or Friday coming in or something like that, or just Saturday, Sundaying it. I'll sleep in my damn car. I don't care. Like, I want to be at that track as long as they'll let me be there. Filming stuff, putting out videos, live streaming, and I want to see as many people as possible there. If anything, I'll say this. I'll say it right now, and I'll say it probably on the podcast and other places, especially in my opinion, when it's announced. I want to set up a meetup at Chicagoland with as many people as possible, whether it be in the infield or outside the track, as many people as possible. And let's see how many people we can get to show up and just have a big ass party. Just a big ass party, man. That'd be a lot of fun. Let's see. There's 2 other super chats I think I missed. I got the Bowman one from Steve-O. Young Money says, what was your opinion on the Xfinity race yesterday? People were saying just because Suarez won, it was rigged for him. I do not think it was rigged. I think if you watch part of the race or just see the box score kind of thing on it, you're gonna be like, oh, that's rigged. The Mexican driver wins in Mexico. Okay, whatever. I get that. And I don't think it's because it's fair to Suarez. It's unfair to him. I think it's because NASCAR, in my opinion, has lost in a lot of ways so much of its authenticity that I don't think it's unrealistic for a lot of people who are kind of disgruntled with the sport to think they would fix a race. But if you watch the race, you saw that a lot of the favorites had mechanical issues or spun out or, had mistakes or they crashed out like Gibbs and Zilich and a lot of those guys up there with Suarez. Suarez just was the smarter driver yesterday. He was a smarter driver than a lot of those guys at the end, and his equipment held up. I think that's the best way to put it. I get people saying it. I don't think it was rigged. I think Suarez just went out there and earned it. Now, if a million people had made a million mistakes in front of him, and every time he got behind them, they're like spinning out or they're getting out of his way and stuff. Okay, yeah, sure. But I didn't see anything fishy yesterday, personally. I thought it was a great race, honestly. 8 out of 10 race. So what will Xfinity rebrand to? That's right. That is something that has been under the radar this year that people have forgotten as a storyline. Is Xfinity is leaving its full-time sponsorship of the lower series, the Grand National Series, if you will. And I think they're going to I don't think they're going to go like NASCAR, Grand National Series like they did, back in the day. I think there will be a sponsor still for it. Again, the rumor mill has been saying Busch Beer. They've been sticking around. They've been upping a lot of their support of the sport. And so we'd have the NASCAR Cup Series. We're never getting Winston back, right? I guess unless they, I don't know, maybe they make like some other brand and then they can have Winston with that. But they're never getting the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. So NASCAR Cup Series is going to be the closest we ever get to that. But we got the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series back, which just seems so much better than Gander Outdoor or RV or Camping World. Camping World was the closest thing to it, but we got the Craftsman Truck Series back. I do think we get the NASCAR Busch Series back. If I'm putting my money on a prediction, I think it's the NASCAR Busch Series. It will not get me to drink Busch beer just because I'm not really crazy about it. But hey, Justin here for the 5 says, I really think NASCAR should take advantage of tracks with lights. I would really love to see more night races. The thing is that diehard fans love night races, but the rest of fans don't show up too. And a lot of fans don't even watch the night races. Like I can pull up the data right here. Saturday night races generally do not work, unfortunately. Now there's a big audience last year for Daytona, obviously. But when you look at the Bristol night race, for instance, I get, it's during college football season. But there were a lot of night races back in the day that were during college football season that would get routinely 5 to 8 million viewers. And even, like I can even go back, for instance, during college football season in 2015, that's right, rained out. 2014, I guess it's 10 years ago. The Charlotte race got 5 million viewers on ABC. It's during college football season. It's roughly around the same time of the year. Hell, I mean, that same year, during college football season, I believe this was at the time because of the way that things were shuffled out at or around the same week. 5 million viewers for Richmond. You can go even further back. Even on NBC Sports Network, almost 3 million. The Bristol night race, don't think has gotten more than 2 million viewers on it since, let's see, 2021. That's a data point you can look at. Daytona has still kind of fallen off as a night race, Saturday night race. People, for some reason, don't watch Saturday night races. I think they're personally overrated. That's another one of my unpopular opinions. I get why people like them though. But the brass tacks of it all is, if fans don't show up for it, why should NASCAR do it? I think that's what they're thinking. Because Sunday night races generally do better. For instance, you look at last 2020, was it 2023? Was it last year? Where's it at? Where's this? This thing. This is the problem, is I basically empty my brain of the last season's things once the new year starts. I mean, Sunday night races generally do better, from what I can tell. Where's it at? This thing, I need to make another video on that because I have the data. I just don't know where I put it all. Story of my life. Steven here says the NASCAR Grand National presented by so-and-so like Cup. I think that could work. If they don't get a sponsor, I think that could work. It'd probably be a much lesser rate than to be one of the prime sponsors of the Cup Series. But I think we're going to have NASCAR Busch Series. Twin Spinner says, I feel like the optics of Busch coming back when the series brands itself on being full of young drivers, usually under 21, moving up is kind of Well, here's the thing. If you race more internationally, those young drivers can actually drink, because a lot of those areas, it's like 18 or 16 is the drinking age. God, gotta love America. You can die for your country at 18. We can't have a beer until you're 21. I say just make them both 21. ESMN for the 10 says, question for everyone. Over under 6.5 cautions per day. Well, you got your 2 stage yellows, so that for sure will happen. I think there'll be 1 for rain, which leaves 3 or 4 for instant. What are we saying, guys? Over or under? And yeah, those drivers, they do drink. Let's be real. But over or under, what do we got? I'm going to say under. I think we might hit 6. I think 6 is a very, 6.5 is a very, there's a lot of overs on here. Yeah, why not? Let's pull. I'll pull y'all. All right. Over, under. 6.5 cautions. If I could actually spell, that would help me so much. All right. Over under 6.5. There you go. Poll is up. Keep reading these super chat. I appreciate you guys leaving these super chats in here too. It means a lot. I appreciate it. No, just everyone knows you don't have to do them, but I appreciate when you do. It's awesome. Andrew, where should the next international race be at? And not really including Montreal, since that's all but confirmed. I want Motegi or Interlagos. Yeah, because my go-to would be anywhere in Canada. The Canadian base is so strong. For you Canadian fans, I don't know how many of you guys are in here right now, but I can just say this. I see you guys in my analytics. I see the Canadian fan base in my analytics. There is a bump if you guys are interested in a topic. And I can't say that about many other countries, unless it's like SVG wins, then New Zealand and Australia get very interested. But Canada, Canadians, you guys are you were the only ones outside the United States that actually truly move the needle every week on my channel, viewership wise. I think that you guys deserve, I think I would argue you guys might deserve 2 cup races, not just one. The Canadian fan base, I think, is that good of a fan base, and the racing culture there, from what I can tell, at least from analytics, from seeing a lot of people I know that have been up to Canada for the Canadian Series races. I have actually, it looks like that's one of the few places that the racing culture is starting to grow more. Steven here says, what about Monday night races in the summer? Monday night football does great, and I think Wednesdays sucked. Plus, Daytona 500 on Monday did good. Yeah, Monday night Daytona races, Daytona 500s have done decent. Not great, but decent. Wednesdays is the thing about Wednesdays is, in general, unless you're baseball or basketball, I guess hockey too, in a regular season, or if the date falls that way, generally are ignored by the wider fan base of sports fans. They generally get the lower views. There's a reason that talk shows, there's so many, including NWP, our talk show is on a Wednesday because it is the dead day in the week. It is that halfway point between last week's big stories and this week's big stories. So I agree with you on the Wednesday part, but I will say it was really fun when our podcast also doubled as a pre-race show. 2020 was a wild time, man. But Monday night races, I think they could work in small doses. So this is one of the things I've said is, I think that the NASCAR schedule should compact a bit more. Not getting rid of the practice and qualifying compacting. I don't agree with that, but more getting out of the way of the football season that really kills a lot of the momentum. That way, that when that momentum is supposedly supposed to get killed, people are invested hopefully in the championship at that point. Now, again, we need a championship system that people can get invested in. So my idea was this, and I know it's difficult now because we removed one of its dates, so we'd have to take a date away from it. But I had 2 proposals on this. Yeah, compact weeks, not weekends. I like that, Jack Straw. That is exactly where I'm at with it. Weeks, not weekends. Because I don't want to lose the races, but I also want the sport to succeed. And I think that's the magic touch there. So there's 2 things that I argued about with it. One of my proposals is you have a Sunday afternoon race, the full 400 miler at Richmond. And if you're going to have a second Richmond date, you have a Monday night race the night after. That way, if there's a rain out on Sunday, or a storm out, because you can still kind of race in the damp. But let's just say rain out on Sunday, you're able to race Monday during the day. Yeah, it sucks. You lose the ratings for that, but then you have that race that night. You have a doubleheader day. Yeah, Monday night race, maybe make it a 300 miler. It probably have to be shorter just because of the compacted week will mean that the travel schedule will be compacted, but you're doing it closer to home too. That was my idea. You give people, the bang for their buck. And I honestly think Richmond would sell out both of those races because you have 2 races to go to. I know when they did the doubleheader day with Xfinity and Cup a couple years ago when I was there, the crowd was huge because they had that set up there. And maybe you add more miles to another race to make up for the 100 laps you're taking off of Richmond, right? I'm okay with that. The other one I went to is if you're going to keep this system, which God, I hope they don't, but if you're going to keep it, what you could do is if the schedule is compacted in a certain way, that Darlington does not open up the playoffs, the first round, what you could do is open it up with, because make Daytona, no matter what, the regular season finale. I think it's fit that place, and Daytona Beach does not want, as a city, does not want NASCAR moving it back to the 4th of July weekend, unfortunately, as much as I think it belongs there. So what you could do, I think, is double up Kansas, for instance, right? Because if the Southern 500 is the week after, it means football season hasn't started yet. You still have the Monday night open, because if you're going up against Monday Night Football, you're losing in sports. That's just the name of the game at this point. So what you could do, I think, is the playoffs. To me, you run out of time, or you run out of people and their patience for it, because it's a 3-something month playoff. It's one event a week. Because the thing is like, I think NBA and NHL have like 2 months or something like that. But the thing about those is there's games through the week. There's constantly churning the storyline. Whereas with the NASCAR playoffs, you have these days where you have every week, it's just one race a week. And so in the time that like baseball could have 20 or 30 games played, depending on the round, you have one NASCAR race, or you have three NASCAR. I should say you have 3 NASCAR races. So my idea was you do a doubleheader at Kansas, where you do a Sunday race starting out the round. The middle race of the round is on the Monday night afterwards. That way you have the primetime date. You have people looking at it. Now, I think this is the thing. If you do a Monday night race, it has to be on Big Fox or Big NBC. Can't do it on Prime. Can't do it on TNT, USA, FS1. Has to be on the big networks, which is going to run into a problem because of the way the contracts are right now. That's the tricky part of the game. So then in the span of a week, you have the entire round finish up. You have the first 2 races, Sunday, Monday, and then you go to Darlington, you finish the round there immediately. You can move Bristol, you move whatever you want. That way you have that bang, bang, and the busy work, because that's the thing. The first round is busy work. The first round is, at this point, is just getting the people who don't deserve to even be there out of the way, and every now and then they slip through the cracks. If you can get that out of the way, and you can have, because round of 12 is when it actually starts to matter, and when actual contenders usually get eliminated. So at that point, if you make those rounds much easier to get to for a lot of fans, you might make them stick around. So long-winded way of saying things that'll probably never happen. Let's see. Justin here says, aside from the fact that it's upsetting that the NBC portion has 10 races on USA and only 4 on Big NBC, why aren't USA races on Peacock? I think it's because NASCAR at this point is still too big to be on Peacock. There were no official numbers ever given for IndyCar races on there. But I had heard from a few people that it was very, very bad. Like more people at the track at some of those races than actually watching the broadcast. And that just kills sponsorship. And NASCAR cannot afford to do that. Because if the team sponsorship dries up, then they're in a whole world of hurt. All right, guys, I think we went through a lot of it. We covered so many things at this point that we're going to probably be regurgitating a lot of these. So be sure to watch after the race. We'll be live. I know that Prime's doing its thing, so I get if you are wanting to multi-do it, or if you want to just watch the Prime one, totally get that. But we will talk all about this race afterwards on this channel. I'll put the stream up probably right around when they go green, so y'all can hang out in here and talk to each other. Hi. I've seen a lot of y'all saying hi. Hi, everybody. Yeah, plus Peacock sucks. It's not very good. So be sure to check it out. Have some fun. Subscribe if you're new. We do streams after every race. Not before, but after. There's plenty of stuff going on this week. So I will see you guys in a couple hours. Enjoy the Cup race, and happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. And have a good afternoon. I'll see you later, guys. Bye.